Hello, good day all. Wherever you're watching us from around the world, I hope you had a great holiday season. I would like to wish everyone happy holidays and a prosperous new year. Welcome to Guyana in Conversation with Akash and Freddie. Today, we'll be looking at a number of topics that are affecting all of us here in Guyana. Those are petty crimes, Guyana's uniqueness as the only English-speaking country in South America, the restoration of historical sites in Guyana, the importation of labor force to drive the development that's happening in this country, the use of technology in ID cards, and of course, traffic accidents. Hey, Freddie, happy holidays.
Yeah, same to you, man.
And I have to say it, but happy birthday, Freddie. Okay, it's really a pleasure. How did you spend your holidays?
Normally, with my wife was an older person like me. My daughter is gone. And as you get older, you want to spend more time with your family. But I only have two members of my family, apart from my pets, which are part of my family, integral part of my family. But I have had a very topsy-turvy, hectic, volcanic, tsunamic life that took me away meaningfully from my wife. Mm-hmm. I mean, if I'm not in jail, I'm in a hospital. So I didn't spend quality time with my wife except when we were studying in Canada. So now it's time to spend quality time with my wife. I spend my birthday with her. She's making pizza for me. So by the time I leave this program, I think the pizza should be ready. That's how I spend my holidays the past few years with my wife. I think at my age, I want to, it's time to go in your twilight years with the one you love. And I'm very much in love with my wife.
Well, I spent mine in a very quiet way at home. I was basically reminiscing on my boyhood days growing up in Wakenham, and the things and people that make Christmas what it is. I had pepper pot. As a matter of fact, I bought pepper pot because just me alone. I live by myself, and I didn't have the time to make pepper pot.
You gotta get married.
Yeah, I plan on doing so.
You gotta look for a soulmate and get married.
Freddie, I have found a soulmate, but
okay, well,
man, I think marriages are overrated sometimes. But we'll work on it. So I made my own version of ginger beer, which is I blended ginger with lime, and I made a refreshing drink, and that was that was my Christmas day, Freddie.
And you blended it with your mind.
That's right, exactly. Yes, you put your heart in something.
It's a good combination.
That's right.
Blending your heart with your food, and you're all right. And the only missing link is you didn't blend it with your soulmate.
Yeah,
I guess that will come soon.
Well, I hope my soulmate is watching this program. She hears this, and she knows that she should be with me by next Christmas. Look, you did make an appeal on the last time we had this show recorded in the Botanical Gardens that if somebody has making garlic pork, they should bring some for you. Did you get it?
No, I didn't.
You kidding me?
No. I said that in a program last year when, I can't remember which year, but I know Stanley Ming, the famous businessman Stanley Ming, bought garlic pork for me. But anyway, I normally have an enjoyable Christmas with my wife.
Okay.
And my pets.
Yeah,
I left my pet to come here.
Wow. Well, you're doing a good thing. Look, today, Freddie, we're going to discuss a number of things, a number of issues, as I mentioned in the beginning. And these things affects not just Guyanese, but it affects tourists as well as people coming into this country to do business. And let's start with the petty crimes. In fact, Guyana is listed as a country of risk by many foreign countries. And I did a research before we do all this. And by no means are we trying to hurt Guyana. On the contrary, we want to help by speaking about it, accepting that it is a big problem and not just sweep it under the carpet. It's time we accept that there is a major problem in Guyana, and while we are developing country, we must immediately start finding solutions and implement those solutions now. It's a time that Guyanese says stop to petty crimes, pickpockets and robberies and and all these things that we're hearing out there. Guyana has a crime problem. Yes, we have a crime problem. We have to admit that we have a crime problem, because in order to fix something, you must admit that there is a problem. And the solution means that every Guyanese must be part of the solution. We all have to be our brothers' keepers and look out for each other. Freddie, I want to ask you, there are so many petty crimes happening around this entire country. You know, stick-ups, people get them breaking into cars, home break-ins, choke and robbing, and sometimes in a very violent manner. Why is it that Guyana, as a developing nation, cannot grapple with this situation and get it under control?
Well, look, everything is in context, and I don't want to I don't want to reject the totality of what you're saying, but I want to answer your question first sociologically and then particularize to Guyana. We have to be careful, and we should have been careful the past 80 years with what other countries say about the former colonies. Do you know, in the developed world, Italy is far more shambolic a country than Guyana? Somebody pick your pocket and you go to Italian police station. You will have to wait about 3 hours. So when you hear about these countries, look, I am going to discuss the issue, but I don't want other countries that have their internecine faults, that have their life-threatening faults, lecture to Guyana. And you know why they do that? Because they think they're superior and they hide their decadence. Look, United States right now has before its legislators an aid program of $100 billion for Ukraine, Israel, and the border problem. Do you know it is unimaginable, the wealth that the United States has? This is $100 billion just for 3 purposes. And do you know, for such a rich country, the United States is horribly crime-ridden? Horribly crime-ridden. Now, when you take our economy, when you take how far we're yet to go, and you compare that with a place called Paradise, where money flows, like when you have a tsunami, like how the water flows when you have a tsunami, money flows like that in the U.S. And the U.S., of 360 million people, a sizable percentage of that live in naked dirt poverty. The possibility of getting robbed and getting killed in the U.S. is far greater than any other country in the world. Per capita, Trinidad is more violent than the U.S.
Yes.
Because you have to look at it per capita. But Trinidad, our economy has collapsed. United States, our economy is thriving. United States can go around the world and buy Trinidad. Say, listen, how much is Trinidad? $3 trillion, and buy it. Microsoft is worth $2.4 trillion. And that country with that kind of money is a country I want to avoid. I step onto the subway and somebody may say, oh, he looks like an Arab. We don't want Palestinians here, and kill you. So I concede that we have to discuss crime. But I don't want governments that are more countries that are more shambolic than us, telling us, be careful to walk in Charlestown. United States has no moral right to issue travel advice.
But let me interject by saying this though, Freddie. I know Manhattan like the back of my hand, especially midterm, because that's where I go all the time. 2 times a year I'm there. I stay in Manhattan. And I can come out of that hotel wherever I stay and walk at any time in the morning, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I could go for a walk. I can tell my soulmate, let's go take a walk.
I reject what you say.
Because I have done it. I have done it several times and feel safe.
And people can't walk out of the Marriott and go to the seawall and feel safe in Guyana?
Exactly. What? Exactly. That is my point. Because I come out, I stayed at the Edison, which in October of this year. I went there for my birthday. I stayed at the Edison Hotel, which is two buildings away from Times Square. And I would walk in either direction any time of the night and feel safe.
But you could do that in other countries, you know that.
I know I can do that in the countries, but I can't say the same for stepping out of this beautiful place that we are in here. By the way, guys, I just want to interject. We are at the Signature Hotel here in Looney Street. It is an amazing place. You guys got to go check it out. Check it up online. Check it up on your Facebook page. Signature Hotel right here in Looney Street. Mr. Kissoon.
No, you can't extrapolate. You went to a hotel and I went to a hotel in Guyana to drop off people, to visit people, and we didn't get robbed.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying to you that I felt safe walking in Manhattan any hour of the night. I cannot put my head in the sand, Mr. Kissoon, and say it is the same for me to walk any part of Georgetown.
Well, I would say this. I would feel unsafe walking in Manhattan in the uncivilized hours. I would feel unsafe walking in any street in the uncivilized hours in the United States. I went to look after my eyes in Miami. And I came out of that hospital and I was waiting for a bus. I didn't know Miami. And I waited and people say, what are you doing here alone? But that was not the only one. My eye treatment was arranged by the editor for my newspaper, the Catholic Standard. So he was a Jesuit priest and he arranged for me to get treatment. And when I was leaving, I had to say goodbye to the Jesuit priest that facilitated. And when I called him at 7:30, he said, no, where I am, you shouldn't come. That is in Florida. I swear over my parents' grave.
You don't have to. You don't have to because...
So let's move on. You can get robbed in any place.
Exactly.
I was just talking about countries issuing travel advisory. United States is issue travel advisory because United States think it's the center of the world and you have these little countries, Malawi, Guyana, Jamaica, where you get robbed. So we big United States will issue a travel advisory to our citizens not to travel there. You know what the U.S. should do? It should issue a daily travel advisory to its own citizens.
I agree. Now, as I said, I'm not maligning or in any way saying that I love Guyana. This is all I want. I have had opportunities to go and live in America. I choose to remain here. Most of my schoolmates are...
I know the point you're making. We have, for a small nation...
Exactly, man.
Trinidad have too much crime rate.
Yeah, they have what, 3-4 murders per day? And it has increased over the holidays.
We don't have it like that.
No, we don't. But I'm saying...
But I think it's a problem here, and I admit
we have to fix the problem. That's my point. Look, Freddie, let me give you my... Let me tell you what's happening. When you go to the Stabroek Market area there are people being robbed on a daily basis. And the people that are in those areas, the people that are working in those areas, they see what happens. But they can't say anything. They are targeted. They are targeted.
The vendors, they
exactly. They see you get robbed and they like turn their face. They can't say anything.
Those bandits will come and hurt them. Yeah.
That's right, exactly. And that is what I'm saying, that in order for it to fix the problem, it has to be an issue fixed by all of us. And the reason I'm saying this, Freddie, is because if we are going to become this country where investors and tourists and foreigners are going to be pouring here, as they are right now, then we have to create a safe environment. And that is why I ask you, what is it that we can do? What is it that we can do? What safety measure or what can we put in place to ensure the safety and security of all Guyanese tourists and investors? Mr. Kissoon.
Okay, look, it's a large country, and it's a large country where large parts of it, you know, one of the things Guyanese suddenly realize when they go to the Caribbean, and I realize it too, when my cousin drove me from his home to the airport. We reached the airport in 5 minutes. You take an hour to reach it, but it's a large country. And therefore, for a large country like this, it needs to be properly policed. CARICOM, the economic community named CARICOM. Guyana is bigger than the whole of CARICOM. So it's a large country, and in order to stop crime, it has to be adequately policed. I think that is one of the problems. Sometimes you need, I remember, I think 2 months ago, a Venezuelan Guyanese came back, he's a tailor, and he got stabbed, robbed and stabbed at 9:30 at Robb and Wellington Street. Robb and Wellington Street was desolate at 9:30. Now, you need more police patrol now in those areas in Georgetown after 8:30. Georgetown by Robb Street, by King Street, by the City Hall, they become very deserted. So you need more adequate policing. The other thing you need is the ubiquity of the surveillance cameras. I think I was told that the surveillance cameras have prevented a lot of robberies and have resulted in robbers being
arrested.
Because they have a central point at the back of the convention center, and the cameras are monitored there. So you can see when something is taking place in Carmichael Street. You could transmit the thing to the police. But I think the police force is inadequate to cover a large country like this. I think that's one of the problems. The second thing is pickpocket that you refer to. Pickpocket is age-old
tradition.
My sister-in-law got her bag pickpocket outside the supermarket last year. 2 Albanians came up and robbed her. You're gonna
Albanians?
find, yeah.
Where did this happen?
In Canada.
Okay.
The Albanians tried to kidnap the famous footballer Beckham, David Beckham's son. So you got these pickpockets in Italy, when people go to visit those ancient Roman relics, you're all close together, right? And the pickpocket run wild in Rome. So I take the point, but I want to say that what I'm saying, my fulminations about what happened in other country, they do not justify what's happening in Guyana. We have to have a blueprint for stopping crimes. I think there's just too much crime for our economy that is developing.
Precisely.
We have to do something.
Precisely. Look, during the last World Cup that was held the Football World Cup that was held in Qatar, there was a gentleman who went into and I'm using this to make a reference here, who went into a supermarket to buy something. Nobody was there. So he asked another guy, how can I, he said, just put the money there and take what you want. He said, is that? He said, yes, because this is Qatar. Our punishment for crimes here are not easy. That is why we don't have it. I'm not saying that is the problem here. That is what we need in Guyana. Look, it's obvious.
You don't need that in Guyana.
No, we don't.
Qatar don't have free and fair elections. We do.
Yes.
Anyway,
that's what I'm saying.
It depends on which value.
But I'm also saying because of the laws put in place, it deters certain things.
They should put a law in place for people to be elected in Qatar anyway.
Yeah. We'll deal with the politics of that another day. Look, it's obvious that these petty criminals, mostly young people, I think
you have a youth problem too in Guyana.
Exactly. Look, is it that they don't like to work like everyone else, and hence they must be really when you lock these people up, make them do hard labor. Perhaps hard labor will make them change. It will make them gravitate towards wanting to work. Maybe it will break them out of the cycle of not wanting to work. And because when you put them in jail, they're with hardened criminals who has been there for violent crimes and murders and all. You're mixing them with this population in jail that can.
Well, that's another problem, man. You can't do that.
Exactly.
And we have some crazy magistrates.
That's right.
That remand people for stealing mangoes.
A man got a spliff and you put in hardened criminal.
Yeah.
So my thing is that should we then have a reform system for juveniles and young people who are first offenders? Should we have a reform system to say, well, listen, what really you want to do in your life, partner? You want to be a plumber? What if we provide you with the training and then we provide you with listing on a job. Is that a possibility or a solution, Freddie Kissoon?
But look, Forbes Burnham, I don't like to talk about Forbes Burnham. For me, he was a dictator and a man with serious demonic qualities. But countries can take from other countries, modify it, and put it in a different format. Burnham had the National Service. Where Burnham went wrong is because he did things in a dictatorial fashion. He didn't consult people. But the National Service he made compulsory, and people resented that. But what you need is a more civilized form of national service where you can take these youths who are employed and put them in the interior to see a new life. And of course, there must be serious inducements, serious incentives. Another thing we need to do is have those school leaving programs where when people leave high school and they haven't achieved anything, you have schools to rehabilitate them. I know there are 1 and 2 Wolford Avenue, the Industrial Art Training thing,
and GTI.
But you need much more than that.
I agree.
I don't want to dismiss poverty as a factor that drives crime. Although I came from direct poverty and I didn't steal.
Me too.
But sociologists and government leaders have to face the fact that when you're poor, it's going to drive you to commit crimes. That doesn't mean that crime should be justified.
Freddie, look, we're on this topic again, and as I said, one of the things for me is that there are a lot of foreigners in this country for this holiday season. And I want foreigners to feel safe when they come to this country, because when I go into their country, partner, as I mentioned before, I do really feel safe. I mean, I spend some time in, I wouldn't go in certain parts at nights for say, well, I'm going to go walk I tell you about Manhattan, I wouldn't go in, sorry to say it, but I wouldn't venture towards Harlem, or I wouldn't venture towards Central Park middle of the night. I'm going to be safe. You have to be cognizant of your surroundings indeed. But how can foreigners, both tourists and investors, feel safe and really enjoy what Guyana has to offer?
Well, that's a very, very tall order.
Yes.
It has to do with the security forces and the state and the social scientists, the academics at the University of Guyana, working out a blueprint for that. But I think at the heart of it, well, I shouldn't say the heart of it, I think one of the pillars of that should be adequate policing. I think it's not the fault of the government. If you don't have that amount of police, you're going to have a problem. But if people don't want to apply, the government can go into their homes and pull them out. Of course, the salary is important. So that's what I think is one of the problems.
But let's come off from the crime. But let me ask you this, and let's look at the blessing that we have here. Hi, we would like to take a break at this point for a commercial. We'll be back shortly. Freddie, what are your thoughts on Guyanese cultures and our uniqueness being the only English-speaking country in South America? And it's so unique that we are filming this here right now, and there is an African traditional ceremony happening right next door, and I guess some of our viewers may be able to hear a little bit of the drumming. I hope it's not distracting, but we have to learn how to coincide and how to coexist amongst people. But when I say uniqueness, I mean in many ways our global positioning, our geography, our political landscape, of course our economic landscape, that we have recently become a wealthy country by all of this oil discovery and so on. But of course, what are your thoughts on that, on the uniqueness?
Well, I can answer the question two ways: sociologically and anthropologically, one way, and in the other way, I can answer it as a Guyanese. There's nothing unique about Guyana being the only English-speaking country in South America. Belize, our CARICOM neighbor, is the only English-speaking country in Central America. So geography placed us there, and it makes us unique in that in a region of Spanish-speaking nations, we're English, but it doesn't make us very, very special or very unique, because you have other countries. In India, there are 20 different languages. So sociologically, there's nothing unique about Guyana being the only English-speaking country in South America. It's something that, you reflect on. Hey, this is right. But in terms of speaking answering the question as a Guyanese, there are lots of unique aspects to this nation called Guyana. It's cultural potpourri. It's a mixture of Hindu, Christian, Muslim, and within the Christian, there are different branches, Anglicans, the Catholics, the evangelicals, and then you have next door to us what's going on now, the more fringe elements, the Jordanites, which the people who are making the noise now as we film it, and I don't mean that flippantly.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I withdraw the remark.
Yeah, it's not making noise.
They're carrying on this office there. We're also unique in the sense that we are a very unique country. We've always been unique politically. We've always been special politically, whereas the Caribbean countries are homogeneous. Barbados, Jamaica, Antigua, we're multiracial with Europeans, strong Amerindian presence, strong presence of mixed race, and that kind of diversity lends to a cultural variety that is unique and interesting. Also be unique in the sense that we've always had an ideological position that most countries in the Caribbean do not have. We've been strongly anti-colonial more than the other Caribbean countries. We've had a history of being a very, very politically conscious people, perhaps more than the rest of the world, even in Africa. But I would say India's been very strongly anti-colonial, and I don't want to run down any other part of the developing world. But we've been very, very progressive nation, very anti-colonial. In fact, of the countries of the world right now in the developing world, no one has made a more pronounced statement. I wouldn't put South Africa as part of the post-colonial world, but maybe it can. Look at the way our president has spoken about the need for a ceasefire in Gaza. Which other CARICOM country has taken that route?
Yeah.
So politically and culturally, we are unique, and that has expressed itself. The cultural thing has expressed itself in the type of clothes we wear, the dishes we have, the kind of cultural practices we have. So I would say in that sense, we're unique and special.
Exactly. Look, over the decades and perhaps for centuries, a number of things has played significant roles in molding a unique Guyanese culture. And two important things are food and religion. And food from various groups of our six peoples, And the cultural heritage has been preserved by various religious groups that brings festivals, music and holidays that create a tapestry that is so Guyanese that it's sometimes become, it takes a life of its own. When you look at all the races of people, Freddie, that plays Pagua, on Pagua Day, when you look at all the races that come together to play Pagua from every single cultural, religious, and racial background, and even tourists that comes to Guyana, and you look at thousands of people in the national stadium packed up playing Pagua on that day, we really become unique, And as you said, India has, all of these things too. But when you look at the melting pot that is Guyana, that is where I think some of the uniqueness comes in, and we are really gelling as a people, and we need to do this more. Mr. Kissoon, what are you most proud of as Guyana being this only English-speaking country in the Caribbean? Not in the Caribbean, but in South America. And also, what is it for you that really stands out to the world from us as unique?
I would think the philosophical consciousness of humanity, of freedom. I think Guyana, as a colony, has always been a progressive country, aligning itself with progressive concepts and progressive praxis around the world. Cheddi Jagan, Forbes Burnham, Walter Rodney, our trade unions. If you take a survey in the world right now, among developing countries, among post-colonial countries, I think Guyana probably feels more passionate about what is happening in Gaza than in Jamaica, in India, in Sri Lanka, in Africa. Mm-hmm. And that is where I think our uniqueness comes in, and that is one of the proud achievements of my country. I think we've always been ahead of other people, of other nations, in terms of progressive humanity. We have our own differences here. Norton versus Jagdeo, PNC versus PPP, AFC and WPA, very poisonous. But when all is said and done, those very groups have a very progressive attitude to socialist economics, to left-wing politics, mm-hmm. to workers' rights, etc. Even more than most countries in the developing world. I definitely think if you ask people right around the world now about how they feel about Gaza, we would have a higher percentage of respondents that say, look, they're killing people in Gaza, they genocide in Gaza. That's because we've always been at the forefront mm-hmm. of anti-colonial struggle. In fact, in the West Indies in the 40s and 50s, I would think Guyana had a more defined anti-colonial stance than in the Caribbean, and equal as I would think in Africa, in Algeria, and what have you.
A very simple way that I look at it, and here is what my take on it. I always say that we were very lucky to be born in a country that speaks what I term the universal language, English. You may differ. We enjoy, like for me, I enjoy watching cricket and listening to the commentaries from across the cricketing stratosphere, various commentators, and they all do the commentary in English. It is in no way watered down because the emotions, the spectrum of emotions, when you listen to Malik,
but there's no superiority in the English language.
No.
We speak English because British wrongfully colonized us, and they wrongfully colonized India. But the English language is not superior to the French, the Hindu language, the Russian language.
I'm not saying that it's superior. I'm just saying
you're just comfortable with it, but because that's your language.
Yeah, but also, Freddie, English, as I said, has somehow or the other made its way into the into everything, including mainstream media and all
It
that.
didn't make its way. It was imposed on us.
Okay, well,
by
it
the
is.
colonials.
Well,
Right.
yes, and I agree. I
And
agree.
it's our language.
But it is what it is.
It's our
yeah.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, from an academic standpoint, you being who you are, Freddie Kissoon, a well-accomplished university lecturer, and decades of journalism, how does living in the only English-speaking country in South America makes things different? How does it differ, and on what level, if so?
Well, I am not going to use. I understand what is going through your mind, but I'm not going to use the English language to make Guyana unique. Guyana isn't unique because it's the only English-speaking country in South America. As I told you, Belize is the only English-speaking country in Central America. That's the language we got from the colonials. And it's neither here nor there for me. French is good. The Hindu language, I wish I could have spoken Hindi. It's the language of my grandparents.
And perhaps Sanskrit.
Yeah. And my favorite poetry comes from Sanskrit literature. In fact, today is my birthday, and I ended my column in the Chronicle with an extract from a piece of poetry from ancient Sanskrit literature. But living in Guyana as the only English-speaking country in South America, it doesn't give us an edge simply because it would have given us an edge if we were bilingual, and we made the crucial mistake, which we're paying for, is when we were a colony, we should have taught Spanish in school. My wife is very fluent in French. That's because at Bishop's where she went, they taught French. We had no neighbor that is French except French Guyana. We're in South Africa, we're in South America that speak Spanish. And we're teaching the language of an imperialist nation, France, in our schools. So in a sense, that shows where we went the wrong way in terms of languages. I think when we became independent, we should have really drafted an excellent curriculum of Portuguese in all our schools. We live next to a giant, a global giant named Brazil, a huge country that touches the whole of South America. And instead of we teaching our students Portuguese, we taught them French and then sprinkling of Spanish at university. Our students should have been fluent in Spanish and Portuguese. I hope that is corrected in the next 10, 15 years. But to answer the question, I don't feel any special as a Guyanese because we're the only English-speaking country in South America. I feel special as a Guyanese because I think it's a good nation with good people despite the political turmoils we have. And I think philosophically and psychologically speaking, it's a progressive set of people.
I share your thoughts. As I said, we're going to break down these topics in larger. We're going to make larger chunks out of them actually, and we're going to have people. Perhaps you can have someone of your former colleague at the University of Guyana who is versed in the study of languages to come on the show one day.
I have such a good friend.
Right, and he will come and be here on the show.
He majored in Spanish.
Right, and he will also share his ideas. Because me, I'm just touching on the surface. I just see things on the surface and I'm touching on it. Look, you and I filmed the last two shows we did in the botanical gardens. Much more can be done with that botanical garden. And much more can be done with many historical sites in Guyana. Some of them, Freddie, are barely holding, if I may put it in this term, barely holding their head above the water. The zoo. When last you went to the zoo?
Because of my attitude to animals, I wouldn't go
Yeah,
anymore.
me. I don't like to see anything caged either. Not even a fish in a tank. I say that without any reserve. But a number of these places that we've been to are so run down, man. How do we get these places back to where they're supposed to be, and the beauty that they're supposed to portray to the world from coming out of Guyana? What do we need to do?
We need to do a tremendous amount in the effort of reclaiming our respect for culture and our respect for history. It's one of the tragic aspects of Guyana the past 50 years. And it's at a commonsensical level. The authorities need to know that you have to embellish your historical site. You have to instill it in the memory of different generations. Take, for example, we need a massive infusion of consciousness about our past, history. I'll give you an example. I went to the Brigdam police station with fellow academic Leonard Craig. And while we were waiting, police reports of decades gone by were on the ground, and people were walking on them, and they were just the sweeper who cleaning up the place. Now, you would not know it's gone. An artist like Bob Marley, Sammy Bash, or Dave Martin, we will have no record that they were once arrested for protesting something, because that entry in the station is gone. I don't know if you know, but they're one of the most famous rock singers, rock bands in the world. Was a band named The Doors, headed by a charismatic singer. This was the time of the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and he was just as competitive with them, named Jim Morrison. So if you know how large the Beatles were in the early 60s, Jim Morrison was. And in 1967, while he was performing on stage, the police arrested him. And the police arrested him for making out with a fan. They didn't know it was his girlfriend. That was in 1967. Do you know about 50 years after, a journalist investigating how this world-famous rock singer was arrested on stage for having an affair with a girl? They went to the police station records 60 years after. So if it's 67, they went to 67, about 50 years after. They went just a couple of years ago. And they were able to get the name of the woman that Jim Morrison was making out when the police arrested him. And they went to track down the woman who's now 70-something, and she said she doesn't want to give an interview. But you imagine, the police station had the record of that thing from 67 right up to the present time. And I saw those station diaries strewn all over the Brigdam police station. So
Freddie, you would make a report yesterday, and it's difficult for them to find it tomorrow.
So now, for example, do you know the new St. Rose's High School has been? St. Rose's High School has been directly opposite, a few yards away from where the city water system started.
Which is now Monument Garden?
Yeah, no. None of those St. Rose's students knew that their school was right next to where their grandparents got their water from. That's where the sewage system, the water system was. Now, I told Mr. Persaud, who had landscaped the Monument Garden, if he could put a sign saying, it was where Georgetown water supply started, just a big sign. But Isu is a good man and he was very busy. Now, those are things you need to do.
Absolutely. And Freddie, I really believe that citizens' education will go a far way. When people are made aware of the history of certain places,
we are too neglectful.
Yeah, I think I think they will treat. I think they will treat it differently.
You know,
I think
the
they will
documents that are missing in the archives.
Yeah, I think they will
our
treat
history?
it. I think they will treat it differently, and they will show me more respect. But at least that is how I think.
I want to think the president and his wife could be persuaded in that area. That woman,
Precisely.
the first lady, has done a wonderful thing.
As a matter of fact, that is something I want to come to because it's really.
That hasn't been done since we were a colony.
No, me and you had a cook-up rice out there. We had, twice I think we ate out there.
It's beautiful. Landscape.
Beautiful. Yeah. You have traveled.
I go there every afternoon.
Yeah, you have traveled a lot. What have you seen in other countries that you think can be? And again, I'm using this analogy. But what is it that? Well, not an analogy. I'm using this for you to make a comparison and to say where we can go. What you have seen in other countries that you think can be easily done in Guyana as it relates to family recreation? With just what you said, what we said just about the seawall, but that has changed a lot. That has changed many things. What else you think can be done?
I think in my travels abroad, other countries have more respect for historical monuments, for recreational areas that need rehabilitating than Guyana. I think we are guilty, and we are just disdainfully guilty of neglecting our respect for monuments. You know, I go to Fort Groin every afternoon.
On the seawall.
Yeah, and there's a jetty there that was built 200 years ago. So at Fort Groin, you could walk down that jetty and you're into the Atlantic Ocean. Those people throwing boulders there for riprap.
Yeah.
Broke the jetty.
Wow, history.
You know that jetty should have been preserved. You know how many? Do you know there in the ocean in Lusignan? In the ocean in Lusignan. If you go to Lusignan now, when you look out to the ocean, you would not know they had a large jetty there. When that thing
covered.
Yeah. You needed to You need to landscape Fort Groin and tell people this was built by the Dutch.
That's right. That's right.
And that is what I have seen missing in Guyana than perhaps most other nations. Don't worry with Jamaica. They make sure there's a Bob Marley Avenue, and it's
every little thing they take care of.
And when I think that is one of our biggest faults. That the other thing about us is that outside do not play around. Outside do not play around with perpetuating their country's legacy. For example, in this country there is nothing named after Desmond Hoyt. Well, nothing.
Yeah.
I saw him politically in our political evolution. He made a significant contribution.
The only thing that I see, if I may, the only thing I saw with Desmond Hoyt's name that I see every day is that home that he used to live in North Road, right. They created sort of a museum.
You know, there's nobody. If you ask the young people who's Juan Robinson, they don't know. That man has given 50 years to theater. Take, for example, University of Guyana. I went to a number of universities outside. And guess what their library name? Guess what their walkway name? They named their walkway and their library after people at the university that achieved something. Now you take university started in 1963. Do you know many people have put the university on the map in Guyana? And you know there's no walkway, there's no canteen, there's no library named after them. I went to the University of Toronto to do my doctorate. And it's not the University of Toronto library, it's the Jason Robarts library. You know, those are the kinds of things I think this entire population is guilty of neglecting our history.
I know, and I agree with you, Freddie. I totally agree with you.
You know, when Dr. Joshua Amsami was fighting for the rights of our people, fighting for free election, and there was assassination attempt on his life. He was a professor of biology. That building at UG should name Joshua Amsami Josh Ramsamy Institute of Biology. And people would say, when those students are, having their supper under the banner, say, who was Josh Ramsamy? One of the pioneers of journalism in this country was Ricky Singh, Father Andrew Morrison. Who knows who them? We're filming this thing and your technical people are very young here. You ask them who's Father Andrew Morrison, a giant of a journalist.
Yeah.
That, in that respect, we have been terribly delinquent.
Well, that is where I believe that I believe that the onus is on various municipalities and the government to work together in creating or recreating.
The US have a Ronald Reagan Airport, a John Wayne Airport, John F. Kennedy Airport. But thankfully, we have the Cheddi Jagan Airport, and then there is the Eugene Kawaya Airport.
Yeah, but as I said, I think the onus is on the municipalities and the government to come together and to have educational programs, and also to do restoration and to make things, let's make these public spaces beautiful again. But not just beautiful, Freddie. For me, it has to be safe and secure where families can go and be comfortable in every way. I know you love the seawalls. Every time I've done many times.
I grew up there.
Yeah, you grew up in the seawall. Nobody knows the seawall like you says in this whole country, in the world. A lot has been done there. Are you pleased with all the upgrades and the new ventures that has happened on the seawall, or do you see room for even more improvement?
Well, it could be. The First Lady has done a wonderful job, and I think she has to get excellent grades for that. But you learn of the need for improvement as you go on day to day. Now, for example, I don't think there's proper security. They have a police outpost there, but those police, they're not walking among the pedestrians. They drive and they go up to the roundabout and then they come back. Now, I had to fix the pipes last week. I normally have a span in my car. The people turned the pipe
and broke
all four of them, and the water left running. But those are things that will come. I think there's a problem with parking. The seawall has been landscaped to an extent where it's very attractive, and they put a playground there, and then they have a food court, a large food court. You have to have space to take off the parking.
True.
And they don't have space to take off the parking.
Perhaps the parapet can be on the opposite the seawall, just over the road. Perhaps that can be developed. But again, as you rightly said, it's beautiful. I mean, I love it out there.
But that has never been done in the history of Guyana. And it was just the seawall. Because I grew up there. It's only in the 60s you had some benches there. But when I was growing up roaming over the seawall at 10 years old, it's been like that until the First Lady fixed it.
There's a chimney at the back there. What's the history on that chimney? Do you know?
No, I don't know.
You know there's a chimney though, right? We will go and check it out. There's a chimney at the back there.
No. I would know everything in the back there.
Yeah. Just near the Marriott side.
Just by the Marriott side?
Yes, going towards the Marriott.
No, that has been removed.
It has been removed?
Yeah, no,
wow.
There's no chimney there anymore.
So imagine, but they have removed a piece of history then.
Yeah. I know that place at the back of my hand.
Hi, we would like to take a break at this point for a commercial. We'll be back shortly.
Guyana TV Network.
Freddie, the last time you and I did an interview, we did touch briefly on this subject of Guyana not having enough labor force to drive the development that is happening all over this country. You did mention that we need to import them and you use several countries and the percentage of foreigners living there as examples. Foreign labor has also aided in the development of many first world countries. How do we deal with this issue in Guyana?
Well, it's no complex question, it's no complex issue. Immigration has always been a positive factor in the life of countries. If there's any country if there's any nationality that knows about the importance of immigration, it will be Guyana. I don't know if you know, and I hope the people who look at this video will look at it and will hear what I'm about to say. And when I say it, I hope it, does something to their psyche, their soul, and mind. Guyana has the largest send-off of people living in other countries in the world per capita. That was reported in the prestigious Forbes magazine. We have sent out more people in the world to other countries in the world than any other nation. So if there's any country that should know the value of people coming to your country, it should be Guyanese. Now, it's no complex issue. The only problem involved is that you have to monitor the Venezuelans because we have a Venezuelan issue there. And obviously, you have to make sure that those people are vetted. It's a neighboring country with a territorial dispute. So we can't treat them the same as we will treat Antiguans. But as to the Venezuelans coming here, they came and they're making a contribution in every business: taxi business, food business, restaurant, carpentry, road haulage, and we should welcome them. I agree that people saying you need to monitor them. I don't know what that means. You need to put a system in place for them to apply for citizenship, but let me be pellucid and unambiguous. If the Venezuelans are running from economic meltdown in their own country, we should welcome them because we ran. There's some people are morbidly ungrateful in this country, and those people, I want to say, quite frankly, I dislike them intensely. I lived outside and saw Guyanese running and coming, and I was a student in Toronto, and I saw Guyanese illegal, so we should welcome. It's no complex issue, as I said for the third time, because we need the skills, we need the labor. We are now asking Cuba to send nurses for us, and they will be coming to Guyana to work. We need technical people, we need laborers, we need skilled people. Let's go out into the world and bring them in. One of the businessmen that is quite prominent in this country is Nicholas Boyer, and he went on the Freddie Kissoon show and said that we need at least 250,000 people here. You have a huge oil economy. You have one of the largest discovery of oil in Guyana. That oil economy is now transforming Guyana to ways that if you lived in the 1960s and you come back here, you think you're in a new country.
Absolutely.
Where you go, how that economy is going to work if you don't have technicians, if you don't have engineers. It's insane if you don't have them. The country becomes insanely unstable.
I agree. And I believe that specific recruitment agencies should be set up. And those agencies should not be affiliated to the government. And it should possess the financial capacity to find the people that are skilled in whatever requirement that are needed and get the paperwork done, and not only get that paperwork done and get them here, but also be able to take care of them so that they don't feel that they're being taken advantage of. Now, while I say not affiliated with the government, because obviously somebody's going to say, oh, is the government important this set of people for vote for them, or that set of people vote for them?
I don't think the government should be bothered with that. Whatever the government does, they can say anything. Let me say something. If Irfan Ali goes around and kiss everybody and give them $5,000, tomorrow what they're going to say? 5,000, he could give the people 15,000. See if he say, I'm sorry. I will go back and kiss them and give them 15,000. You know what? He looked at the economy and he see he could have given them 15,000. Why he didn't give them 50,000? You know, so a government has to do what it has to do.
And that was bringing me to my next question, because I wanted to ask whether you would agree with me, and if you don't, what are some of the possible solutions you think we can have? Because let's say we're gonna bring in let me just be hypothetical here to say we need 100,000 people to drive the labor force, and we're gonna bring 100,000 people into this country, and you want them to. What are some of the things that you think should be put in place to ensure a couple of things? One, that they follow the rules and regulations and laws of this country. They do not, and I don't want to use this term loosely, but I want to say that they do not impede on the livelihoods of Guyanese in whatever way that is. And also, how do we then put this whole political, because every time you hear about somebody coming, they're bringing it for votes, It happened all the time.
The opposition has its thing to say, the government has its work to do, and life should go on.
Okay.
You can't run a government based on what the opposition say. If you bring in people from India, the opposition can say you're bringing Indians to vote for the PPP.
Yeah.
If you bring in people from Nigeria, the opposition can say they're bringing in Nigerians to vote for them.
That's right.
They're going to say, even though Nigerians are Africans. So
Look,
government has to get on with what it has to do.
The United Arab Emirates government introduced something called the Kafala. I don't know if you heard of it, the Kafala sponsorship system in 1971 to allow companies and nationals and expatriates to hire migrant workers. And the Kafala system is a private sponsorship system that monitors migrant workers in the construction and domestic sectors. Do you think that such a system in Guyana will help?
Well, I am unhappy with the term monitoring people. The Guyanese monitored when they go abroad. They go into the United States. Next thing you know, they're in schools. Next thing you know, I am unhappy with the term monitoring. Every country has a system that people should adhere to. It's not only when these immigrants come, they can adhere to our system. We are not adhering to our own system. We drive like mad people
every day.
And in fact, when immigrants come to this country, they need protection because we may rob the people. You know, which Venezuelans been raped and robbed. So I don't know what is meant by you have to monitor them. What I do know is that we have a system in this country that the United Arab Emirates probably don't have and Qatar don't have. We don't have a huge, so large, that is larger than the Atlantic Ocean outside the Kingston Seawall. Huge bureaucratic red tape in which you can't get things done. One of the things, we don't know what is going on in this country. We don't know how many investors came here and just told the banks, go to hell and taking my money elsewhere. Because the banks are doing stupid things. They don't understand the Anti-Money Laundering Act. They have become sadistic and hassling people. We have a bureaucratic system here in which it takes 3 months for you to get anything done. Now, you want to come here, you come in here to invest, and you see a property that you like, and you go to the property owner and the property owner say, yes, I am willing to sell it. You know how long it will take to get transport to pass and this? That has become a morbidity in this country to get things done. And I remember the United States ambassador was just gone, Miss Lynch. She stood up for this country during the time when free and fair election was being rigged. And she complained about the red tape to get things done here. So when you bring in these laborers and these skilled people as Qatar done, they facilitate them. The people don't have to wait 3 months to get their kid in a school, and then when they get their kid in the school, they can't, these are nonsense, absurdities and asininities that this country have to get rid of. Why does it take you 3 months to pass a transport? Employ more people at the deeds registry.
Because that was what I was going to ask you next, Freddie. I mean, if this happens in Guyana, we're going to bring in people. Obviously, you have to
treat them with dignity, facilitate them as though we don't know. I'm telling you, those commercial banks have chased investors from this country.
Yeah. Everybody said a royal run around.
And you know what? I have a theory. I have a theory that I think people of this country don't realize. Even more some of our influential people. A lot of these international laws that we didn't craft, the Western countries crafted for us. We cannot understand that those laws are crafted and imposed on us to weaken us, to make us less competitive. I can tell you the nonsense the commercial banks go on with. They don't go on like that in those own countries that crafted the Anti-Money Laundering Act for us. A lot of these laws, take for example the World Trade Organization. A lot of the rules and regulations in the WTO are designed to weaken third world countries, developing countries, their products, their exports in favor of those Western countries. So you have the Anti-Money Laundering Act and these banks read it and say, no, where you got this money from? Okay, as an investor, did your grandmother ever own land in Kentucky? Did your grandmother ever had any property in Paris? And the people just said, look, to hell with you. But you don't, and when you talk to the banking people, they say, this is part of the Anti-Money Laundering Act. And it may be, but it's designed not for us. It needs to be reshaped.
And that is why I say, Freddie, that if this happens in Guyana and people come into this country, obviously there will have to be legislations to protect everyone. And I'm talking in terms of immigrants, the government, the Guyanese people, the immigrants, everyone. Initially though, Freddie, what do you think must be done to start facilitating such a process?
You have to streamline the bureaucracy and you have to go into a modern age. Online transactions. You know what is happening here? We have the bank is sending a notice to you. The bank is sending a notice to you. So the bank is not writing you anymore. When you go to GWI, can we see proof of address? Now, if the bank send you a mail, Akash Persaud, 17,000 per join. When you go to GWI, they ask for proof of address, you show them that. So we gone to online things, transaction, yet people asking you for proof of address. I go to the post office to post something for my daughter, and I had to make 3 copies of my ID. Ridiculous. Why I can't show them my ID? They photocopy it and gone in the system, and I didn't know. So I went early, the post office opened at 7. So I could step across to my friend in the Bank of Guyana and ask him to photocopy my ID. There was no place open at 7 o'clock to photocopy. Why you need 3 photocopies? Freddie, photocopy it yourself.
Man, you hit the nail on the head. Let me tell you something. This morning as I was driving...
listen, all money or no all money.
Yeah.
If things don't change here, we're not moving.
That's right. Look, this morning I was driving, coming here to do this interview. Picked up one of the staff and we were coming in. And apparently, I turned somewhere where there is a one-way. I didn't even know. Obviously, I may not have paid attention that there's a one-way.
The police came.
The police come behind me and pull over. It's like, sir, you think you pull over one. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
It's a ticketable offense.
Yeah, he said it's a ticketable offense. I said, okay.
Let him write the ticket and
he said, pull over. I pull over. I went, he said, come to the car. I went, I spoke, I said, sir, my name is Akash Persaud. I've never had any traffic infringement, whatever the case may be. He said, can I see a document? The first thing I took out is my driver license, my ID card, and I give it to him. I said, these are my, he said, oh, I don't need none of these here. Look, can I see other documents? Everything is intact. Okay, you need to go to Albertown Police Station at a certain time. I said, I'm preparing for an interview.
It's a ticketable offense.
Yes.
You don't have to go to Albertown.
He wants me to. He took a and then he took a picture of my ID card and so on in his phone. But I didn't have the time to deal with that at that point in time. It will be dealt with. But here's the thing. When you and I spoke a little while back, we spoke about this ID card and so on. And in Germany, your ID card...
Yeah, it has all your data.
It has a chip in it that works for almost everything. It has your biometrics, and agencies with the right level of authority can access personal data when and if needed, such as police records.
Yeah.
These cards also allow people...
I know the German ID card.
Yes. And
I know it has all kinds of things.
It also allows you to remotely...
It has your marital status, all kinds of things.
It also allows you to remotely access places that you don't necessarily have to go to online because it has a chip.
My problem with this country is, as Professor Clive Thomas said, we're going to get so much money in a few years, we don't know what to do with it. I have ultimate respect for some of the members of this government, that I'm glad they're in the government. And that includes the President and the Attorney General. But I do not think they can overnight change this country that needs changing. All money overnight is not going to change it. You know, I dread. Look, I slept in lockups. I'm not afraid of police brutalizing me. But I'm afraid of the GRA. I'm afraid of the deeds registry. I am telling you, Akash, if there is a protest of Palestinians now, I gone from the river to the scene. I got my banner.
Well, me and you went on one before.
And the police come in and the police say, you can't go there. I say, it's public property. I will go there. And I will face arrest. I don't give... But you can't get me to go into the GRA. So I'm afraid.
So what do you think should be implemented, Freddie, to make things easier in the very near future?
We just have to understand that Guyana that we knew in the 70s, 80s, and 90s are gone. In the oil industry and the need for the fossil fuel industry is going to be with us beyond 40 years. We're going to be selling oil and getting trillions of dollars in the next 40 years. Guyana is no more the Guyana of the 70s, 80s, and 90s. We now, therefore, have to transition to a Guyana in the modern world.
Freddie, the need for such technology in a growing country like ours is really necessary, since it will connect major institutions. Let's say you're going to the place that you dread the most, GRA, to get an upgrade on your license.
And UG, right? Yeah.
And UG. And then you can actually tap into that card to see if you have issues with the police that may prevent you or give you clearance for such an upgrade on your license, and it will make things be done in a more timely manner. And I only use this as an example. I'm not saying this is what it is. Of course, the technology provides so much more. But give me 3 areas, briefly, that needs implementation of this technology immediately.
The facilitation of investment in Guyana, both locally and foreign investors. There should be either a one-stop shop, but even if you have a one-stop shop, the bureaucracy may still be ponderous. You need modern facilitation of people doing things in Guyana at 3 levels. 1, business investors, once they meet the criteria, these are not bogus investors, these are not money launderers, these people should be facilitated because we are finally taking off. I grew up hearing Barbados, Jamaica, and Trinidad were the big 3 in CARICOM, and we were limping behind. we have now taken over those 3 countries. People must feel free that, hey, look, Akash, in France, in Europe is very old. Europe is very old. So there's space for investment expansion is not there in Europe. Those are old countries. You're looking now, investors are looking to the Pacific Rim, looking to South America. People know this is an oil economy. And it's not 8,000 square miles like Israel. It's 83,000 square miles that's waiting to be developed. So that is one. Secondly, facilitation of local people that need the kind of state protection. I don't want to use the word state protection, that need state facilitation as the same way we give the foreigners, because sometimes we tend to treat our own local people differently. Thirdly, facilitating the citizenry in general, that people need to get a birth certificate. Sometimes, Akash, I want to know what country we're living in. And we're so all glad that we have an oil economy. But do you know it's not easy to get a replacement for an ID card?
I know.
You know what is an ID card in Guyana? You go anywhere. You go to the people bring a parcel to your home. You can't tell them, yes, I am Freddie Kissoon, but I ain't got my ID. The DHL people would say, "Saul, we have to record your ID." It's not easy to get an ID card. My nephew cannot get an ID card now for 10 million years.
Freddie, look.
These are things that we have to leave that Guyana.
Yeah, it's frustrating, and that's why I'm saying that this biometric card is the way to go. There are so many things that can be done with it. Look.
Well, they say it's coming next year.
Well, I hope so. Look, I want to close off on something that is it's a sore topic.
You take your time. I have time.
It's a sore topic for me. Freddie, this thing aches me.
What is that?
I'm sure you and all Guyanese have the same issue. Traffic accidents. Day in, day out. It's not if I am not a defensive driver, I would have been in many accidents, some that could have been fatal. On Christmas morning, 3 people lost their lives in 2 separate accidents just on the West Coast. But there were several other accidents, traffic accidents, across this country for the holiday period. Some, unfortunately, fatal. What can be done for what I call a disaster that is happening right now before our eyes? What can be done to curb this problem that is happening in this country, Freddie Kissoon?
You know, Akash, if you read philosophy, the ancient philosophers, now, of course, I belong to a Western country. So when I went to study philosophy, they introduced us to the Western philosophers. And the ancient Greek philosophers right up said, look, the way for stability in a country, the way for people to enjoy happiness is you have to have punishment. You have crime, you have to have punishment. We need, if we decide to adopt a no-nonsense approach to driving, you will see after a year, serious no-nonsense punishment. You will see after a year how people adhere to things. If they know it's non-adherence is going to hurt them. Let me give you an example. This is a fine example of how you can help to stop insane drivers. The First Lady landscaped the seawall, and right by the bandstand, there's a no parking, huge no parking sign written on. You know, for the first week, people just ignored the sign and parked there. You know what they did? They clamped their cars.
Yes.
So they clamped their cars 1 week. They clamped their cars the second week. Go now to
Nobody
the bandstand and
parks
see, right?
Nobody.
Right. They come and they eat, they cook up rice and they think, and when they're ready to go, the car is clamped. You have put surveillance cameras, and when people cut lane dangerously, when you in your lane to turn, and somebody come out of a lane and turn, you put $100,000 fine on them.
Yeah.
You take a real draconian approach. So that guy who he's supposed to be the back of you, and when you turn, he turn too. He comes out of a lane and turn with you, and when he turn with you and you turn in, you meet like this. The surveillance camera show you that. You suspend his license, $100,000 fine. And listen what else we can do. When you write that ticket, you know how the thousands of tickets that are just cast aside? Once you write that ticket, it goes to the GRA. When you go for, the driver's license, when you go for fitness, the police have their computer there. So you go to fitness, the police say, but listen, you have 3 outstanding tickets, sir. Right now, I'll have to ask you to go to the station.
Which is where the electronic...
We need to do those things.
The electronic method...
You see how people drive on this road, and they have the surveillance cameras?
Absolutely.
They have surveillance cameras on the seawall, and somebody went and stole a whole vendor's building. Drove it away.
That's right.
And then arrest nobody.
Freddie, look, there is a popular opinion, and I'm always meeting with a lot of people, talking to people. There's a popular opinion that is going around, and I'll share this opinion. I share it in some way also. That there's been an upsurge of accidents recently. And you look at the kind of people, there's a lot of young people involved.
I think per capita we may be #1 in the world for fatalities.
There you go. There is a popular opinion that the use of recreational drugs such as ecstasy, marijuana, and other synthetic, and marijuana is not synthetic, but some synthetic drugs and so on, that people are using it, which cannot be detected by breathalyzer tests. And when one is pulled over, they administer breathalyzer test, the man, there is no alcohol level in his system because it is not showing up. And what is a fact, and it's a scientific fact, that these so-called drugs, these synthetic drugs, as I mentioned, ecstasy being one of them, and there are some other ones, I don't know if the same thing is what they call Molly here or whatever, but it is scientifically been proven to impair judgment and vision, etc., in humans when under the influence. Then there is this euphoria and perhaps the hallucinations that comes with it also. These are proven scientific facts. I'm not against marijuana.
Marijuana is very harmless.
Yes, I'm not against marijuana. But
rum is worse than marijuana.
Yes, but I am against the usage and endangering of people's lives at the same time. Because if you're going to burn a spliff, as they say in Guyana here, stay home in the comfort of your home or get somebody to drive, because it impairs your vision, it impairs your judgment, it puts you in a different frame of mind and a different thought. Freddie, is this a major problem that we are not equipped to deal with in your?
I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure if you have to do the research. When you're making laws, and when governments and municipalities are making regulations, you have to do research. For example, I sat down on the Freddie Kissoon show with the security advisor to the president,
Jerry
Gavaya. And he was telling us that they want to bring in, when you apply for your driver's license, test your sight, test your eyes. And I told him, that is irrelevant. The people who are causing deaths on the road have perfect eyesight.
Absolutely.
The people causing death on the road is between 18 and 40 years of age.
Exactly.
I doubt whether the past 50 years, anybody at age 65, 70 have killed anybody in the road with a car. So were you going to test people's eyes for that when?
Then the prime of their life.
It's the people who in the prime of their life killing people on the road. So when you test a man at 65 and his eye isn't good, you're assuming that it's that age group that killing people on the road because they can't see. The people who are killing people on the road, you know who they are? When we leave the studio, I'll show you them. Strong, able-bodied men and women that can see from here to Africa. They had the people who killing people, no, not you can test in people's eyes for.
And you know what? In dealing with this issue, I agree with you that the methods that you said to deal with it is to be harsh in our penalties, and I agree with you.
Do you know
Freddie,
what the United States did? You could have lived in the United States for 60 years. You went there was 2. If you weren't a citizen and you commit a traffic offense or any offense, you're guilty, they deport you. You have to have no nonsense law to deal with people in any society.
Freddie, in closing, I want to ask you briefly on something. Touch briefly on it for me, please. This British warship that came to Guyana recently has triggered something in Venezuela there over the last 2 days. Venezuela is now saying that, this is against the Argyle the agreement we had at Argyle, and they are now saying, well, we're going to put troops on our borders again because this. What is your take on it, bro?
Well, I don't know there's anything in the Argyle Declaration that says we cannot have visiting warships from friendly countries. If we can't, then Essequibo doesn't belong to us. If Essequibo is in dispute, and because of that dispute we can't bring warships to have, then we recognize that Essequibo is in dispute. Essequibo is not in dispute for us. The Argyle Declaration was made because of tensions, and those tensions didn't come from us. We were living peacefully, the Essequibo was peaceful, and Maduro just said, I'm going to have a referendum.
Right,
and then the whole world started to say, Al Jazeera. Actually, Al Jazeera was saying that, they look like they're going to be a war. So we didn't create any tension. Argyle Declaration was to shut Maduro up, and that is what it did. And life goes on as normal. Now, we can't afford not to have warships and military planes coming here because Venezuela has a dispute with Essequibo. We don't have a dispute with Essequibo. Essequibo has a dispute with us.
True.
So we should carry on life as normal. And the people come from Barbados here. What that got to do with the border dispute?
I agree. Freddie, here, I want to close off with I want to ask you something. It's your birthday again. I'm so happy to have you on your birthday. Please share with me one memory that you have of birthdays past that has stuck with you, even with you 3, 5, or whatever. One that you can remember that has really stuck with you of a previous birthday, of a past birthday.
I think it's my wife and I on the Perica Stelling, and we were taking out photographs. I think I kept thinking about, whenever it's my birthday, I remember us because she had our roots in Wakenham. Our parents came from Wakenham, and we were going to Wakenham, and the photograph of that of us in the Perica Stelling, it's in our house.
What year was that?
I can't remember the year, honestly, but I know it was my birthday.
Yeah.
And we went to Wakenham.
Well, wow. Well, imagine that. It has really stuck with you.
Yeah, that's because I see the photograph every time I'm in the house.
Mr. Kissoon, I want to thank you so much. I want to thank you so much for being here today. It was a really good discussion that we had. And in many ways, we're closing off the year in a good way. These topics that we discuss in future shows, we're gonna dive into them a little bit more.
Yeah, sure.
And I want to wish you the very, very best for 2024 and for me personally, I'm going to 2024 expecting nothing but the best also. Mr. Kissoon, it's always a pleasure.
Yeah, I hope everything works out well for you in this new venture, and you occupy a prominent space in the social media landscape and in the media landscape. You have qualities that need to be brought out.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kissoon. Thank you all for joining us today. It was a wonderful discussion with Mr. Freddie Kissoon, Guyana in Conversation. You can look forward to much more coming your way in 2024. Happy New Year's, everybody, from Guyana Television Network.